Standing atop the palace walls, I gaze out at the vast landscape before me. When I was 16, I also stood at a high place, watching the entire capital burn in flames. Back then, I was a fugitive being hunted, a nobleman's daughter who had fallen from grace. Now I am the emperor's wife, the empress of this realm. I never imagined my 16th birthday would be spent in such a way. Miss, hurry. Twayer pulled my hand as we ran through the pitch-black night. Behind us came waves of shouts and killing cries, the fire painting half the sky red. Though it was midsummer, I felt a bone-chilling cold. I am Su Qingge, daughter of the right minister of the Qinghe dynasty. Tonight, with one imperial decree, my father was convicted of crimes, and our entire household was sentenced to execution. If Twayer hadn't discovered the signs early and secretly led me through the secret passage in the back garden, I likely wouldn't have escaped death. Twayer, where are we going? We twisted and turned through the streets until I completely lost my sense of direction. Miss, I'm taking you to Qinglin Temple in the outskirts. The abbot once received kindness from your father. He will surely take you in, Twayer replied, breathless. Suddenly, torchlights flickered ahead and we heard soldiers' footsteps. Twayer quickly pushed me into a nearby general store and whispered, Miss, run. I'll draw them away. Cuyer. I tried to grab her, but it was too late. I watched as she deliberately ran in the opposite direction, leading the pursuers away. Fighting back tears, I continued forward on tiptoe. Along the way, I wrapped myself in the coarse outer garment Twayer had given me, pretending to be a common citizen. Whenever I saw patrolling soldiers, I hid in dark corners. Finally, I reached Qinglin Temple before dawn. Ba, poor child, the abbot sighed upon seeing me. Your father once saved my life and today I shall repay that debt. However, even this place isn't safe enough. Tomorrow I'll have my disciple escort you to Qinchuan village beyond the border. And so I became an orphan adopted by old lady Li in Qinchuan village, changing my name to Li Qing. But fate seemed to think I hadn't experienced enough. On my third day in the village, a group of bandits suddenly raided it. Watching them about to steal the villagers' last remaining food, I gathered my courage and stepped forward. Honored sirs, I know medicine, I said, suppressing my fear. Let me tend to your men's wounds and in return, please spare these provisions. The bandit leader looked at me suspiciously. You, a mere girl, know medicine? I nodded calmly. Just yesterday I cured Aunt Zhang's consumption. Boss, let her try. Some of our brothers really need a doctor, said one of the wounded bandits. Later I learned that these bandits were actually the wronged family members of a general. They were in hiding, many wounded, and had turned to robbery only out of desperation. I used the medical skills my father had taught me to treat their wounds and wrote some prescriptions. Before leaving, the bandit leader actually knelt and kowtowed to me. Miss, your medical skills have saved our entire family. We will never forget this kindness. Though remote, Qinchuan village had its advantages. Far from court politics, no one knew my identity. Old Lady Li, seeing that I was literate, let me open a small private school to teach children reading and writing. By day I taught, and at night I would study the medical texts my father had left me, gradually learning more about medicine. Father often said, master your craft. Every skill you gain is another foothold in life. How true those words prove now. 2 years transformed me from a pampered minister's daughter into a village woman who could carry water, chop firewood, gather herbs, and perform acupuncture. Though my hands grew calloused and my skin tanned, I knew I had become stronger. One day as I was checking Aunt Zhang's pulse, I heard a commotion outside. The crown prince was injured while hunting and has been brought to our village. My heart jumped, but I maintained my composure. Years of life as a fugitive had taught me to mask my emotions. By the time the village head came to request my help in treating the crown prince, I had completely calmed myself. Crown Prince Xiao Mingyuan's injury wasn't severe, just an arm injury from falling when his horse was startled. While I treated his wound, I noticed him studying me intently. Your technique doesn't seem like that of a village doctor, he suddenly said. My heart skipped a beat, but my face remained impassive. Your Highness, I learned from a traveling monk at Qinglin Temple. Oh. He seemed thoughtful. Your manner of speech doesn't seem like a village woman's either. I kept my head down, focusing on bandaging the wound. This humble one has read some books and taught at the village school for 2 years. Perhaps that's why my speech carries a scholarly air. Later, when I learned from Xiaofeng that he was actually someone the crown prince had sent to protect me, my first reaction wasn't gratitude but vigilance. Why would His Highness want to protect me? I asked coolly. Xiaofeng hesitated. His Highness says he's always been troubled by what happened to your father. He's been investigating the truth in secret. I gave a cold laugh. Everyone in the royal family wears a mask. How is the Crown Prince any different? Yet the Crown Prince kept coming. Each time I watched him pretend to pass by casually, finding various excuses to seek medical treatment, I wondered, what was his true purpose? I began observing him secretly. He was indeed different from other princes, always gentle and courteous to the villagers. He would sit with sick children, help the elderly carry water, and patiently listen to villagers' troubles. But could this all be an act? Once I tested him deliberately. Why does your Highness show such concern for a village woman? He was taken aback, rubbing his nose awkwardly. Because I admire your strength. Though born to privilege, you've maintained your dignity in adversity and still help so many people. I replied calmly, Your Highness thinks too highly of me. I merely do what I must to survive. He shook his head. No, you genuinely want to help them. Like last time when you had a fever but still insisted on helping Aunt Zhang deliver her baby. Your Highness seems quite familiar with my affairs, I said pointedly. He suddenly turned serious. Chinga, I know you're guarding against me. But please believe that I sincerely want to help you. I turned away. I appreciate your Highness's kindness. But frankly, I only wish to uncover the truth about my father's death and clear his name. As for other matters, I have neither the heart nor the strength to consider them. Yet the Crown Prince wasn't deterred by my coldness. Instead, he began actively helping me investigate my father's case. Through him, I learned of everyone who had participated in framing my father. Some he secretly controlled, others he bought off, and still others he threatened with evidence. He was like a great net slowly tightening. I had expected him to seek credit or demand something in return. But he said nothing, just quietly carrying out these tasks. Whenever he discovered new clues, he would tell me immediately, then continue his investigation. Once, he rushed to me in the middle of the night with an important confidential letter. It was pouring rain, and though his clothes were soaked through, he didn't even pause to dry himself before eagerly showing me its contents. Look, this is evidence of fourth uncle conspiring with the northern border, he said excitedly. With this we can. Wait, I interrupted, you said we? He paused then smiled. Yes, we. Chinga, your grievances are my grievances. Your pain is my pain. Looking at his sincere eyes, I felt something stir in my heart. When had this man breached my defenses? Then one day I caught a cold and developed a high fever. He set aside his identity as Crown Prince and stayed by my side constantly. In my half-conscious state, I heard him talking to someone. The imperial physician says she'll be fine, just exhausted. Your Highness, you should return to the palace. It was Xiaofeng's voice. No, I must stay with her. But tomorrow's morning court. Go tell father I'm unwell. I forced my eyes open. You shouldn't do this. He held my hand. Why shouldn't I? We're just using each other, I said weakly. I need your power to investigate the case and you need me too. Enough. He cut me off, his voice trembling. Chinga, do you really think I'm using you? You think I don't know you've been guarding against me, doubting my motives? But I don't care. Because I know that someday you'll understand my true feelings for you. In that moment my walls began to crumble. Fourth Prince Xiaomingji was an inscrutable person. He had a handsome face and spoke with refined elegance, but his eyes always held a bone-chilling coldness. Shortly after my return to the capital, I encountered him by chance in the imperial garden. I was admiring plum blossoms with the Crown Prince when we saw him approaching with his entourage. Well, if it isn't our long-lost Miss Su? His voice carried a hint of mockery. I hear you've been living quite freely in the countryside? I curtsied. Fourth Prince, I hope you are well. Well. He gave a light laugh, suddenly breaking off a plum blossom. When your father was convicted, this prince was not well at all. After all. He deliberately dragged out his words. Lord Su kept crying out his innocence until his death. The Crown Prince's face darkened. Fourth brother. Oh, don't be angry, royal brother. He tossed the plum blossom to the ground and crushed it under his foot. I'm merely lamenting how some people fall from grace into the dust. It's quite moving. He gave me a meaningful look. Suppressing my anger, I looked at the crushed blossom on the ground and said calmly, Your Highness speaks truly. Like these plum blossoms, though they seem delicate, they endure the harshest winters. Even when crushed, they bloom magnificently the following year. But this was just the beginning. After that, the fourth prince began opposing me at every turn. Any charitable activities I participated in would face various obstacles. The women's school I managed was repeatedly accused of teaching sorcery. Even the establishment of the Imperial Medical Academy nearly failed due to his interference at court. Once, while I was inspecting an orphanage in the suburbs, a group of masked men suddenly attacked. Thanks to Xiaofeng and the guards' timely intervention, we narrowly escaped danger. Later investigation revealed they were guards from the fourth prince's mansion in disguise. Even more shocking was his secret alliance with the wolf tribe of the northern border, promising them 10 border cities if he ascended to the throne. This news came from Han Yunju from the frontier, where her husband had accidentally discovered the wolf tribe envoys' movements. Han Yunju, the crown prince's childhood friend, had once been my greatest rival. She had previously believed the fourth prince's manipulations and schemed to frame me for plotting against the crown prince. But when the truth came to light, she not only admitted her mistake but became my most trusted friend. Sister Su, we must stop him. Han Yunju gripped my hand. Otherwise, the people of those 10 cities will suffer. Looking at the setting sun outside the window, I said softly, it's time. On the night of the Mid-Autumn Festival, the fourth prince finally lost patience and launched his carefully planned coup. He first released sleeping incense in the palace, then gathered his conspirators, planning to capture the crown prince in one swift move. That morning, the crown prince held my hand. Let me handle this alone. I shook my head. All these years you've been fighting for me. Now it's my turn to protect you. His eyes reddened. Promise me you'll stay safe. I smiled. Don't worry, I'm destined to be Empress. When the fourth prince burst into the crown prince's quarters with his forces, he found an empty room. Looking for someone, fourth prince? I emerged from behind a screen. He sneered. Even if the crown prince has escaped, I still have you as a hostage. He raised his sword and thrust it toward me. With a sharp snap, an arrow precisely struck his wrist, making him drop the sword. Imperial guards poured in from all directions surrounding him. The crown prince emerged from a secret passage under Xiaofeng's protection. You. The fourth prince stared in disbelief at everything unfolding. We've long known about your conspiracy with the wolf tribe, the crown prince said coldly. All this time, while you thought you were cornering us, we were actually giving you rope, watching to see how far you would go. The fourth prince collapsed to the ground. No, impossible. Why impossible? I walked up to him. Didn't you always say I was someone who fell from grace into the dust? That's precisely why I understand best how to survive in the mud. While you, accustomed to looking down from above, couldn't see the path at your feet. He suddenly grabbed my sleeve. Suchinga, please. For the sake of our childhood friendship, please beg for mercy on my behalf. I know the crown prince listens to you most. I shook off his hand. Childhood friendship? I only remember you putting worms in my pastries, locking me in the garden well, and mocking my father as a bookworm who only knew how to read. I was young and ignorant then. His voice began to tremble. I crouched down, meeting his eyes. Do you know why I didn't immediately expose your conspiracy with the wolf tribe? Because I wanted you to taste what it feels like to see everything within your grasp, yet step by step walk toward the abyss. Just like how you drove my father to his death back then. He finally broke down, collapsing in tears. That handsome face no longer held any of its former arrogance. All his schemes and plots vanished in this moment. After becoming Empress, I established the Imperial Medical Academy with Han Yunju, giving more women the opportunity to study medicine. I knew deeply that women must be self-reliant, and only knowledge could help us weather the storms. Han Yunju later married a talented general, and they established many medical clinics on the frontier, benefiting countless common people. Whenever she returned from the border, we would drink wine together and laugh about our past grievances. Sometimes I think, without those hardships, I might have remained forever a flower in the greenhouse of the minister's mansion. It was those difficulties that taught me to be strong, those adversaries who showed me the value of wisdom, and those former enemies who helped me understand the power of forgiveness and understanding. I often visit the fourth prince in prison. He is no longer that arrogant prince, but a withered prisoner. Do you hate me? I asked him once. He smiled bitterly. Hate? I can't hate you. Looking back now, perhaps I lost to your heart from the very beginning. Even in adversity you cared for the world, while I, in my high position, lost my humanity. I poured him a cup of tea. It's not too late to understand now. Standing on the palace walls, looking at this prosperous capital, I am no longer that panicked girl fleeing for her life. Today I can use a woman's wisdom and courage to help my husband protect this vast kingdom. The crown prince, now emperor, often embraces me from behind. What are you thinking about? About our past. I lean into his embrace. If not for that catastrophe, we might never have truly known each other. He holds me tighter. Then we must thank fate for letting me meet the best version of you. Outside the window, the plum blossoms are in full bloom, just like that crushed branch in the imperial garden years ago, finally welcoming its season of flowering. Epilogue. A glance for eternity. Crown Prince Xiaomingyuan's journey. I first saw her on that summer day in Qingchuan village. Actually, I had been secretly searching for her whereabouts long before that. As crown prince, I knew well that every step in court was fraught with danger. The circumstances of Minister Su's case were too suspicious, and I had been investigating privately. I vaguely remembered his only daughter Su Qingge as a pampered young lady who needed support even to walk in the minister's mansion. So when I saw that woman focused on bandaging my wound in that shabby village clinic, I almost couldn't recognize her as Su Qingge. Her hands were no longer delicate, covered in calluses from gathering herbs. Her skin was no longer fair but glowed with health. Her eyes were no longer innocent and carefree, but carried steadiness and resilience. She quickly recognized my identity, and wariness flashed in her eyes. At that moment, I suddenly understood that the Su Qingge before me was no longer the privileged daughter dependent on her father's protection, but a strong woman who had faced death yet maintained her kindness. So I found various excuses to see her. I watched her teach village children to read, treat the poor, and work in her herb garden. Sometimes I would deliberately help her pick herbs from high places, just to see her slightly furrow her brows and say, "No need to trouble your highness." She always deliberately kept her distance, her words neither warm nor cold. I knew she was guarding against me, but I wasn't in any hurry. Because I had seen the momentary ripples in her eyes, felt the slight trembling of her fingertips when she bandaged my wounds. Fourth Prince once mocked me, "The mighty crown prince stooping so low for a woman, is it worth it?" It was worth it. All those exhausting nights investigating, all that running around, all the criticism from others, when I saw her gradually showing me her smile, it all became worth it. I'll never forget the day she fell ill. When I saw her lying on that simple bed, pale with high fever, my heart felt like it was being squeezed. For the first time in my life I felt afraid of losing someone. I stayed by her bedside, clumsily trying to brew medicine for her, only to spill it everywhere. Seeing her shivering, I wanted to wrap her in my clothes, but she stubbornly pushed me away. "We're just using each other," she said, still trying to be strong even with a fever. In that moment I wanted so much to hold her and tell her, "You're wrong, it was never about using each other. You showed me what true courage is. You showed me what true kindness is. You showed me what true strength is." I knew she had experienced too many betrayals, so I was willing to wait. Wait for her to lower her guard. Wait for her to open her heart. Wait for her to believe that sincere feelings still exist in this world. Later, I watched as she slowly opened up to me. She would tear up when I took arrows meant for her, show joy when I found new clues, anxiously tend to my wounds when I was hurt. Each small sign of care made my heart soar. On the night of Fourth Prince's rebellion, what I feared most wasn't losing the throne, but something happening to her. When she said she would act as bait to draw out Fourth Prince, I nearly went mad with worry. But I knew this stubborn woman wouldn't change her mind. She never wanted to be a greenhouse flower. She wanted to win justice with her own hands. Now I often think perhaps it was all destined. Fate put her through hardships to forge her into today's strong woman. Fate led me to meet her to understand what's truly worth cherishing in life. Yesterday I saw her teaching our children in the imperial garden, sunlight falling on her profile, and for a moment I saw again that woman from Qingchuan village. Only now her expression carries less wariness and more tenderness. I walked over and held her gently. "What are you thinking about?" She leaned into my embrace, thinking that if not for that catastrophe, we might never have truly known each other. I kissed the top of her head. "Then we must thank fate for letting me meet the best version of you." She turned around and looked at me seriously. "Actually, I should thank you most. You helped me understand that true hearts worthy of lifelong trust really do exist in this world." I felt my eyes growing hot. Through all these years I've never regretted my persistence. Because I found the best answer in this world, her trust, her dependence, her love. This glance spans eternity, this life holds deep affection. In the days ahead, I will surely let her understand that my devotion to her was never a passing fancy, but a love eternal as the stars.